Hey, that shit hit
Bun
different.
cut.
On full down. Hey, on the guys, I know y'all been waiting on this one. It hit different. Hold on. Gang. Hey, try to run and still get shot. That shit hit different. Hey, stuffing hollows in my Glock. That shit hit different. Hey, when you smoke your first op, that shit hit different. Hey, gun size a boss top. That shit hit different. Bitch, that shit hit different. Hey, that shit hit different. Hey, when you really bout that life, that shit hit different. Bitch, when you living what you rock, that shit hit different. Hey, when you know these niggas cop, that shit hit different. Bitch, tax the swifty to the Glock, make it spit different. Hey, bro, just beat a murder case, that shit hit different. Hey, my side bitch another race, that shit hit different. Hey, I got a Glock, bro, got a Glock, but bitch, my shit different. Hey, I got VVs round my neck and them hoes hit different. Hey, I cut my baby mama off cause that bitch be trippin'. Hey, caught him lacking at the stody nigga be slippin'. Hey, got 33 in my 23, Scotty Michael Pippen. Y'all ass tweaking bitches merch, you know it hit different. It's 200 on my dash, know my whip different. I put my shooters on your ass, it's gon' hit different. No, my boys ain't come to play, they gon' kill a whip. Try to run and still get shot, that shit hit different. Ayy, stuffing hollows in my Glock, that shit hit different. Ayy, when you smoke your first op, that shit hit different. Ayy, gun size a boss top, that shit hit different. Bitch, that shit hit different. Ayy, that shit hit different. Ayy, when you really bout that life, that shit hit different. Bitch, when you living what you rock, that shit hit different. Ayy, when you know these niggas cop, that shit hit different. Bitch, when she found out that you rap, that shit hit different. Ayy, when her sister let you clap, that shit hit different. Ayy, think I'm locking, but I'm strapped, that shit hit different. Ayy, I put my city on the map, that shit hit different. Ayy, I'ma fuck a doggy style, cause it hit different. Ayy, screaming free the problem child, bitch, it hit different. Ayy, all my shorties going wild, bitch, it hit different. Ayy, milk the game like a cow, bitch, it hit different. Ayy, when your cousin them the ops, you know it hit different. Ayy, when you really on your block, bitch, it hit different. Ayy, when you really worth a check, that shit hit different. Ayy, I put the block around my neck because it hit different. Ayy, bitch, try to run and still get shot, that shit hit different. Ayy, stuffing hollows in my Glock, that shit hit different. Ayy, when you smoke your first op, that shit hit different. Ayy, gun size a boss top, that shit hit different. Bitch, that shit hit different. Ayy, that shit hit different. Ayy, when you really bout that life, that shit hit different. Bitch, when you living what you rock, that shit hit different. Ayy, when you know these niggas cop, that shit hit different. Bitch.
We Japanese still. You getting cooked in front of your family? Like a Japanese meal. It's Yashuda Hibachi and none of you niggas can stop me. But can't help but watch me. Wow. Whoa, they. So look, bro. Recent paper was brought to my attention by Avery and the resource group. And I took my time and did the due diligence to read over the paper. And the paper is dealing with ancient Egypt. And, you know, we love to bring controversial topics to the channel, especially at the expense of skinheads, um, black Nazis, you know, social media KKK members. I just love bringing this information. I love educating, you know, but it just it's just fun for me to just expose information that will irritate and make the KKK and skinheads, black or white, alike upset. And today, as the title says, and the title reads, Sub-Saharan African discovered in ancient Egypt. And if you guys have been following the channel or if you've been up to date with your research, this should not be surprising. I mean, there's mummies with literal of sub-Saharan African parentage that has been exhumed in times past. You know, the field of genomics is not that old. We're probably going on what 30-something years. The field of genomics is probably as long as I lived. You know, so it's not that old. We're discovering new stuff every year. You know, and just expect to keep seeing stuff like this. So we're going to be dealing with a paper dealing with this corn mummy that they were able to extract some human DNA from. and they discuss certain possibilities of contamination, arguments against contamination or modern contamination, arguments for it being ancient and stuff of that nature. Um, but again, it shouldn't be a shock or surprise to anyone because again, we've had papers in the past and skeletal remains be exhumed in the past possessing sub-Saharan African parentage. So you're gonna get trolls in the chat, trolls in the comments, trying to argue against reality like they always do. That's the main thing. When someone supports the idea of race was is 100% and completely fictive, they have no choice but to go against reality because again, like to a black, Nazi, he thinks everything revolves around his idea of blackness and his racial identification, a social group. But when it, especially when we're talking about ancestry, but then when these people take DNA tests, they find out, oh wait, African Americans are not all the same. They're not homogenous, and all these ideas of static populations don't really exist, but only in your head, and you're trying to reinforce your imagination instead of just going forth with the evidence that's been presented. Same thing happens with the skinheads. They believe that old sub-Saharan Africans have always been in certain areas. They believe that they have to be trapped there. They can't be anywhere in North Africa. They can't be in Europe. They can't be in anywhere outside of where their imagination has told them they should be in ancient times. And we just keep reading paper after paper. We just read the Fulani paper a couple weeks ago showing that the Fulani indeed possess genes that show that their ancestors were in North Africa in the ancient times. I mean, we done show after show after show to ad nauseum dealing with the Green Sahara, aka the last African human period, um, where we know that there were humans there occupying, and we're pinpointing on what group of humans actually occupied those regions. As far as the male lineage goes, yeah, A markers, yeah, E1B1A and E1B1B markers, RV88. So exciting stuff, haplogroup T and stuff of that nature. So I mean, none of this should be surprising to anyone that's up to date with the science or has been, paying half of the attention required, to our videos. None of this stuff should be mind blowing or, and the video shouldn't take that long. With no further ado, we got the savant from Levant in the building. Avery, what's going on?
Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Good to be back on the show and to talk about a new paper that's come out in 2024 dealing with the Egyptians and DNA and sub Saharan African DNA. Shocking, I know. But really, it isn't. Just like you said, Jashu, sub Saharan African DNA being in ancient Egypt isn't anything new. It's not a new revelation. Papers have already spoken about this. Like you mentioned, ancient Egyptians uh, have a little bit of Yoruba DNA. Um, Papers have already brought that out. Papers have shown that Egyptians can carry mitochondrial haplogroup L, which is considered sub-Saharan African. Papers have shown that certain type of diseases that's found in the Yoruba originated from Egypt, and there was like a migration dealing with, I guess you can say, Niger Congo's peoples from like the Nile Valley or whatever, and and those worms. I forgot the name of the worms, but you probably bring it up here in a second. And also we know that, yeah, go ahead. You was about to.
Yeah, the flatworms.
Yeah, the
The
flat.
blood-
That's it.
yeah.
And also, we know that when it comes to sickle cell, that was found in ancient Egypt. And of course, we know that sickle cell originated with E1B1A populations. Per, Garfield, who brings up that paper a lot dealing with sickle cell, we know that sickle cell is, pretty much originated with E1B1A, and that particular um, allele was found in Egypt. not allele, excuse me, that particular mutation was found in Egypt. So yeah, there's definitely obviously sub-Saharan African presence in ancient Egypt. It's not that weird. Just like there's a sub-Saharan African presence in North Africa in ancient times. It's not that weird. I mean, after all, the first Homo sapiens sapiens to be in North Africa would be sub-Saharan Africans, anyways, considering that haplogroup A and B are older than any of the CT downstream lineages, and they were all throughout North Africa, like Jebel El Harud in Morocco 300,000 years ago, likely carried haplogroup A, would have been in sub-Saharan Africa. The Aterians dated to 130,000 years ago. Homo sapiens sapien population in North Africa, the Aterians would have carried haplogroup A and B, sub-Saharan African lineages. So it's not that weird to find sub-Saharan African genomes in ancient North Africa. Not that strange at all. It's only strange for people who don't study the origins of mankind and the migration patterns of mankind. But yeah, let's get into Egypt and look into this paper. Unless you have something you want to share.
Yeah, no, I mean, beautifully stated there. Because again, like, it's going to shock people, or it will be seen as shocking to people that are stuck in a 19th century way of thinking as far as racial essentialism and stuff of that nature goes. You even have some people that believe that, oh, God set boundaries, and these boundaries pretty much prevent people from traveling. Based like the Lord of the Rings, we always bring up, "Ye shall not pass." It's these all antiquated ideas about human migration and human ancestry. It's just really stymieing the people's ability to grow and understanding. And we try to aid in that here on the channel and just try to show you guys no, that's not how it works. I mean, humans are very mobile, and the entire history of humans or Homo sapiens sapiens has been a history of them moving. So this make believe world that you got in your head just does not exist, man. I don't know how else to put it. It doesn't. Um, with that being said, with that being stated, let's get to the meat and potatoes. I'm not gonna be too long tonight. So I will be placing this paper in the chat so everyone can have the reference. And there you go. Boom. There's a paper. Metagenomic peek into a corn mummy. And there's the title. And we're gonna dig right in this. All right, so the abstract, and again, for anybody that's new to the channel or new to just scientific literature or papers in general, abstract denotes the summation or the summary of the paper, right? So it states numerous studies have shown that metagenomics has opened up a new dimension in reading the contents of archaeological remains as time capsules. Corn mummies are ritual objects made in ancient Egypt by forming human-shaped figures made of cereal grains grown in a mixture of water and earth. We perform metagenomics analysis on samples from a corn mummy dated to the second half of the 3rd century BC, alongside a number of clearly modern contaminants, and we're going to talk about that. We identified organisms that cannot be excluded as being of historical origins. So they separate what the modern contaminants is from the things cannot be excluded as being historical origin, which is very important because you're going to have trolls watch this and try to completely exclude what the conclusion of the paper is. It says, besides considerable amounts of bacterial sequences belonging to genera Bacillus, Corpococcus, Metabacillus, and Nylea or Naia, and Raciboria. We also found traces of plants, animals, and humans. Key in on humans. It says sequences assigned to the genus Triticum showed the highest similarity to ancient T. turgidum, Dicocum, specimens from Egypt and the southern Levant. So again, it's like, where this was at. Of course, in ancient Egypt, you're going to find similar to Egypt and Levant. So sequences classified in genus Populus showed the highest identity with the genome P. nigra. The fragments that were identified as being of Lepidopteran origin showed the greatest similarity to the genomes of the Sphingidae. Haplotype analysis of Homo sapiens sequences suggests haplogroups L3 and E based on the mitogenome, which the mitogenome comes from the mother, right? mtDNA, and Y chromosome. We know that comes from the males, respectively, which are two common lineages in sub-Saharan Africa today. So, key takeaways from the summation: this is dated back to the second half of the 3rd century BC. Right, this is old stuff. We're talking 2,200 plus years old. The material found there is similar to ancient Egyptian and southern Levantine material as far as the crops that were used to create the corn mummy, and the human haplogroups have L3 and E, and they are two common lineages found in sub-Saharan Africa today. So you easily deduce that whoever was preparing the mummy or around this mummy during that time, where their DNA was able to be extrapolated and absorbed, I guess the word I'm looking for, by the corn mummy, these people will be considered of sub-Saharan African origin. All right, so I want to go down to the meat and potatoes, and there's the corn mummy there. And they explain it there very well. But I want to go down to the relevant portion of the paper where it talks about the haplogroups under the discussion. All right, so right here, it talks about the bacterial reads and whatnot, and what can be considered modern contamination. Basically, off the bacteria coming from the way they're fertilizing the soil. I'm trying to give you a quick summation of that. Humans fertilizing the soil, and that coming down, and our feces, possibly our sewage leaks or whatever, coming down and contaminating the corn mummy could also lead to contamination. As we can see here, basically right here it says, but as we do not see a historical pattern of DNA damage for this bacterium, it is more likely to be contemporary human contamination. So they're talking about the bacteria here. Well, let me go down to the relevant portion right here. The haplogrouping. Again, a haplogroup is a group of individuals that share a common ancestor. If it's Y DNA is male ancestor, mtDNA is female. The haplogrouping of human sequences found in sample 2 suggests that both the mtDNA and Y chromosome might be of African sub-Saharan origin. These haplogroups may have been present in both modern and ancient Egypt. Within the L3 mitochondrial lineage, we found the L3B, L3D, L3E, and L3F subclades are the most common in Central and West Africa. L3C is very rare in source at all, who report one sample from East Africa and one from the Middle East. And again, another example of how diverse sub-Saharan Africans are, and also how well-traveled sub-Saharan Africans are, if you see them in East Africa and the Middle East. Richouar and King, in their global survey of mitochondrial haplotype groups, report their distribution by continent based on 2,534 samples. Of these, 272 were L3 haplotypes, of which 74.6%, 203 of the sample, were from African populations, 0.37%, numbering 1, from European populations, 0.74%, 74%, numbering 2 from Indian populations and 24.3% from American populations. However, this latter figure should be supplemented by the fact that 50 of the L3 U.S. samples had known African ancestry, such as African Caribbeans and Barbados, African ancestry in Southwest U.S. None of the 504 East Asian samples included in the study belong to the L3 haplogroup. DNA damage analysis of the reads aligned to the human genomes does not rule out their historical origin. It highlights at all the global prevalence of Y haplotypes was investigated using 1,208 samples. Of these, 150 samples belong to the E group, of which 83.3% were from Africa, 8% from Central West Asia, and 2% from South Asia, and 0.7% from North Asia. E2 lineage, including 8 samples of exclusively African origin, including 2 E2A and 41 samples from Kenya, 1 E2A from Sudan, 1 E2B1A M85 from Gambia, which we know that's Western Africa. Sudan is Eastern Africa. Kenya is in the east. But these are all sub-Saharan African places, especially Kenya and Gambia. 1 E2B1A, 1 M2100 sample each from the Congo, which we know is West Central Africa, Gambia, West Africa, and Kenya, which is East Africa. And 1 E2B1A1 CTS 155 sample from Angola, which we also know Western Central Africa or Central Africa. So it continues to read on. However, we cannot be more precise about the age of these sequences. For anybody else that had understood that this sample is most likely E2B1 or E2B1A sample, we're going to get into that here in a minute. However, we cannot be more precise about the age of these sequences. If sample 2 has been taken from the surface of the mummy, one might think that the DNA sequences belonging to the haplogroups mentioned could have remained on it from its handling in Egypt during the modern period. So one will say, well, that's just modern contamination. That's what they're bringing up. Someone handled it in recent times, and that's how it got to sub-Saharan African haplogroups. However, as this sample was taken from a depth of only a few millimeters, it is difficult to imagine that human DNA will be present due to human touch. So if someone's going to tell you, hey, the only reason you see sub-Saharan African haplogroups here is because someone touched it in recent times, well, that just blows that out the water because it's too deep for anybody to just run over there and grab, right? It says, however, as with the bacteria mentioned above, it is possible that some human DNA present in the fluid may have infiltrated the mummy, particularly under the fractured surface, and been found. So if anyone's making an argument for contamination, it's your best bet is saying, oh, well, as we're about to read, sewage or something like that could have seeped into the mummy. This could have been the case, for example, if the crypt in which the mummy was kept had been contaminated with human sewage, which could have soaked the mummy, which is possible. And, again, I remember Gorilla Hebrew saying, how are you going to tell me my DNA or my ancestry with a tube of my or a vat of my spit? Well, it's very simple. If you understand anything about biology, all of your cells contain a copy of your DNA. So your urine has a copy of your DNA, your spit has a copy of your DNA, your feces, everything, your skin that sheds off you has those cells contain a copy of your DNA. So they're saying that will have to be the scenario if there is some contamination, that will have to be like through some sewage leak or something like that, right? It says, since this possibility could have occurred before the mummy was placed in the museum, the DNA damage that has occurred in decades since could have produced the smiley plot patterns we have seen. In addition to these possibilities, the possibility that human DNA was introduced during the making and molding of the mummy cannot be completely ruled out because you're going to get a bunch of skinheads and a bunch of racist MENA activists, that believe that sub-Saharans are bad juju and they don't belong anywhere in the vicinity of northern Africa. They're going to come out with all these arguments to try to explain away this instead of saying, hey, you can't rule this out. And just as the paper says. Let me read it again. Again, this was formed in the 3rd century BC. It's about 2,200 years ago. And it states the possibility that human DNA was introduced during the making and molding of the mummy cannot be completely ruled out. So this man that was E2B1A and had a mother with an L3 marker, what are you going to say about that? This man could have definitely been present during the making of this corn mummy. It says since the mummy is described as having been molded, it was obviously done by human hands. So that would be a great explanation to why you see those haplogroups there. It says so the genetic material of the epithelial skin cells that were shed may have been preserved in a lucky case. At the same time, it cannot be ruled out that the human DNA may have come from human feces, as we previously just mentioned about sewage leakage or whatever. So, for example, night soil, which may have been mixed with the seed soil water mixture to assist the growth of the grain. So basically fertilization, right? It is worth noting that the mummy was dried in the sun during its preparation, creating a dry medium to help the DNA survive. So that would explain why it would, in a lucky case, maintain those haplogroups, right? Obviously, it would be better to have a deeper and more complete sequencing, but others have used hashing quality data. Zeitzmer et al. Used 3-97X depth samples with coverage between 62 to 97%. So I want to get to the conclusion because in the conclusion, again, like I said, this really didn't take too long to go over. And the conclusion is really going to hurt the hearts and minds and feelings of the internet, social media, skinhead coalition, and KKK coalition. Because what is and these racist MENA activists, social media activists, that's upset that Denzel is playing as a North African Berber king. Can we say that? You know, those people right there are going to get mad at this because it says, and I quote, studying the corn mummy offers a unique opportunity to peek into an ancient time capsule. However, even with the latest genetic dating methods, interpreting the results require caution. Even though the samples taken from the corn mummy are likely to contain both modern and ancient genetic material, sequences that are more likely to be from Egypt in the 3rd century BC were identified. Most of the bacterial sequences appear to be of modern origin, while sequences from the ancient wheat cultivar, a poplar tree, a silk moth related insect with its gut bacteria, and a North African. So what hold. Let me go back because maybe I lost somebody. Maybe I lost y'all. Maybe I lost y'all in the mix there. Let me start here again. Even though the samples taken from the corn mummy are likely to contain both modern and ancient material, sequences that are more likely to be from Egypt in the 3rd century BC were identified. And then it goes on to clarify this. Most of the bacterial sequences appear to be of modern origin. Wow. Sequences from an ancient wheat cultivar, a poplar tree, a silk moth related insect with its gut bacteria, and a North African / sub-Saharan human male appear to be from when the corn mummy was created. That's the damn conclusion of the fucking people.
So, whoa. Read that one more time. The most relevant portion. Read that one more time for
all right, let me rewind that so I can define that. So again, I gotta start up here. Even though the samples taken from the corn mummy are likely to contain both modern and ancient genetic material, sequences that are more likely to be from Egypt in the 3rd century BC were identified. Most of the bacterial sequences appear to be of modern origin, while sequences from an ancient wheat cultivar, a poplar tree, a silk moth related insect with its guts bacteria, and that's a conjunction, and a North African / sub-Saharan human male appear to be from when the corn mummy was created. Conjunction, junction. What's your function? Hey, listen, man.
Interesting. A sub-Saharan African male, a North African / sub-Saharan African male. Interesting.
Yeah, that's not supposed to exist according to the KKK, the social media KKK and social media skinhead coalition and the MENA activists out there. That's not supposed to exist, Avery. You're not supposed to see sub-Saharan, especially human males, in Northern Africa. You're not supposed to see that. That's against that. That's sacrilegious.
I don't know, Jashu, but I have conflicting thoughts. Should I trust the troll account that has no information on their account with fake PTRs? Should I trust the troll account with no academic names under their belts? Or should I trust the scientists that have the bodies and that are testing them? I don't know. I'm conflicted. Should I trust the Meta fake account that just trolls and is blatantly racist? Or should I trust the geneticists that went to college for years to get to their position of testing bodies? Who should I trust, the troll or the scientist? I don't know.
Who can I run to?
I think I'm going to trust the scientists on this one. I think I'm going to trust them.
Very hard choice. Very difficult choice, man. Very difficult. Somebody that has the credentials and actually have the evidence in front of them, testing it, sequencing the genes, versus a random mofo on the internet, probably got pizza face somewhere in the basement, living on, we can go on and on about that. A very difficult choice. Very, 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 very difficult decision.
Yeah, the Nazi or the scientist.
So, we're gonna have, we're having our little fun. But again, this is nothing new. This shouldn't be nothing new to anybody. As I'm about to show you, haplotree.info. Let me blow this up. Share this tab. Haplotree.info. Again, people hate this one right here. EV38. UMB1A even being mentioned. They hate that.
Scary.
They're gonna hate this one. But not to mention this. What's that L3H1 doing there? In the pre-Ptolemaic period. And there's another L3.
L3 was even in the pre-pottery Neolithic Levant.
There you go.
That's past Egypt, for those of you who don't know your geography.
I know. That's why I was like, we got to teach basic geography now because, that's the next step. Yeah, right here. Another pre-Ptolemaic period. So this is before, like 2,200 years. This is around the time of the making of that corn mummy, by the way. This is way before any transatlantic slave trade, any trans-Saharan slave trade, any of this stuff that a lot of people like to chalk up sub-Saharan African genetics to. They always like to say, well, you find this DNA here largely as a result of the Arab slave trade or the transatlantic slave trade. That's usually the explanation. But this is older than any of that stuff, so that gets thrown out the window. Let me give you another one. L3F, shout out to Shari.
Yeah, we got a few YAP members. I think 3 people in YAP with haplogroup L3, 3 or 4 people.
Yeah,
a lot of African Americans carry it, but go ahead.
She's specifically of the L3F branch, as you can see here. Someone that's Morocco with it, Chad, Ethiopia, Chad, Sudan,
North Africa, and the Sahel. Interesting.
Somalia, Sudan, Burkina Faso.
The Sahel, yeah.
Spain.
It's funny because people told me that African Americans don't carry any type of Y DNA chromosomes from the Sahel or mtDNA chromosomes from the Sahel or autosomes from the Sahel. African Americans have no type of connection to the Sahel, genetically speaking. And what you're showing me, and also what we know in our group, there are women who have mitochondrial L, and there are men who carry mitochondrial L, and obviously African Americans in general, many of them that carry mitochondrial L3, which has a decent distribution in East Africa, considering that it likely originated in East Africa, but also seems to have a pretty good distribution, L3, in like North Africa, East Africa, and the Sahel. And this is L3F, who African American woman in our group carries.
Yep.
But African Americans have like zero connection to the Sahel. No Y-DNA, no mtDNA, no autosomes. But what's going on here? That doesn't make sense. Well, what?
The ancestors of African Americans are very diverse and very traveled, very well traveled. So as you can see, L3F1B6. What is that? That's Spain. Spain.
Oh, snap! In Europe as well. Oh,
yeah. Spain.
Albania.
Albania. Of course, that's the one in Carolina.
Eritrea.
Chad.
Sudan.
Oh, what's this?
Oh, Egypt. Yeah. Is that the ancient sample?
This is ancient DNA. Anytime you see this color on Y-full, I think it's like a goldish or a brown, or maybe close to like what do you call that? Rose pink.
Shout out to our sister in Yap. She is she's a cousin to an ancient Egyptian remain.
Yeah.
She's related to an ancient Egyptian remain. Interesting.
And it's dated to around the same time as that corn mummy as well, about 2,300 years ago. As you guys can see here. So I mean,
we actually do have African Americans that are related to ancient Egyptians.
I mean, you get it both ways. I mean, if you're European, like, here's the thing: if you find out you R1B by proxy,
right, by proxy,
ultimately you are related to ancient Egyptians thanks to the 18th dynasty, and probabilistically, we're talking about the oldest DNA that we ever found in ancient Egypt to this date. We're still waiting on that to be confirmed. But the
oldest might actually be the two brothers, I would say, because they're from the 12th dynasty.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about pre-dynastic stuff.
Pre-dynastic. Are you talking about
the paper that came out? And no,
the paper that came out. My bad. Okay.
No, the paper that came out in April. The one about heart disease and all that. And
okay, my bad. Go ahead.
They gave the early Y calls, and the early Y calls were R. So we're waiting on the jury's out to lunch on that. We're waiting on that. So
okay, I got you. I thought you was talking about the Akhenaten. My bad. Go ahead.
No. Once that gets cemented, all these Afrocentrics are gonna cry. But I don't know why you're gonna cry, because a lot of you guys already are R1B anyway. So that don't even make any sense. So the point is, well, whether you're of European descent or sub-Saharan African descent, you're going to have some connection to these places, because, again, human history is very vast and very diverse. It is not a homogenous story. It's more of a heterogeneous story. And, that's the beauty of learning DNA. As you see this clade right here, these women got around. Look, Eritrea, Chad, so you're talking about Central Africa, Sudan, East Africa, Egypt, Northeast Africa, again, Lebanon.
Shout out to the Lebanese. Israel is coming for you.
Ethiopia, Chad, Spain, Senegal, West
Sahel again, Senegal.
All over, man.
It makes sense for L3 to be kind of concentrated in Eastern Africa, like Nile Valley area, which apparently is where we're seeing it a lot, because, like I said earlier, L3 originated in Eastern Africa. And again, African Americans carry L3, so you will find African Americans that basically have East African ancestry. Their ancestors migrated from East Africa to West Africa. But I guess you can make that argument too about E1B1A as well. E1B1A also originated in East Africa. But, we're talking about L3, so. But
Yeah, man. So again, like this is not new. We've been knowing sub-Saharan Africans were present in North Africa. So this last sentence shouldn't shake anybody up. The only people it's going to shake up are racists. That's it. When it says a North African slash sub-Saharan human male appear to be from when the corn mummy was created, why would that make anybody upset? Unless you
No,
have this racial view of everybody that extends back. It's like the guy from that North African page that you had me join, where he just automatically associates African American. Oh, you're a bunch of slaves and you're masters. Wait, whoa, I'm not a slave. That's not how that works. A slave is a status. It's an occupation. It's not something genetic, and you're trying to treat that word as if it's something that's hereditary. It can be passed down. No, that's not how that works.
no.
Random
And
white people on the street are not my masters, and I'm not their slaves. But only a racist KKK, social media KKK member and social media skinhead will say something like that. They're going to be the same ones that are going to, not like the video, going to troll in the comments about this one sentence right here because evidence is pointing towards sub-Saharan man in ancient Egypt.
that's why I say, do we trust the racist troll with no credentials under their belt, or do we trust the scientists who actually have the bodies, who actually went to school for years and actually examined this specimen, this individual? Who do we trust, the racist troll or a scientist? It's pretty obvious. But going into what you were saying earlier, can you go back really quick? Because I just want to look at it. The fact that we see a North African slash Sub-Saharan African human male in ancient Egypt isn't that shocking, because more and more we're starting to realize that when it comes to the ancient Egyptian population, it was a multi-ethnic, um, basically empire or multi-ethnic kingdom, because it was at the crossroads of Africa, Asia, and Europe. So you're going to see a lot of different genomes, a lot of different people in Egypt, whether it's people with Middle Eastern and Levantine genomes, whether it's people like Southern Mediterranean Europeans, whether it's East Africans, whether it's North Africans, whether it's Sub-Saharan Africans. It was a metropolitan area, and it would have had a lot of different groups going in and out of that particular area, whether they're trading with the Egyptians or going there to set up shop or whatever. So yeah, it makes sense we're going to find even sub-Saharan African genomes just as much as we're going to find Eurasian genomes. And the one thing that we do in this group, we point out both the Eurasian presence in North Africa and in Egypt, as well as the sub-Saharan African presence in North Africa and in Egypt. We don't put one over the other. They both of these human populations were in these geographical areas. Um, we recognize both areas are multifaceted. But anyways, go ahead. I think he was going to.
Yeah. I mean, it's diverse. It's diversity. Again, like in sub-Saharan Africa, they have their own. The women have their own U6 mitochondrial haplogroups, meaning their own mutation. They develop their own unique clades of U6. Meaning you have European women that migrated and intermixed with sub-Saharan Africans so long that they developed their own mutations on their mitochondrial DNA. That's how long they've been in those regions in Western Africa. So again, like the history of humans is diverse. It's a history of human mobility. It's not something of being stagnant and static like most people try to make it out to be. Never been that case. Never been the case. It never will be the case. Um, but from there, let's go here. Share this tab here. So this is EM75. This is what they predicted that haplogroup to actually boil down to, which is E2B1. Well, this is E2 at the top of E2. But as you can see, the E2 family is all over Africa. As you can see, even one person was reported to be a Saudi, Sudan, Kenya. We got some over here in America from the M98 mutation of the E2 clade. So these are all, relatives in some shape or form of that ancient Egyptian brother that was possibly involved with creating that corn mummy during some ancient Egyptian holiday. As you can see, we got some in Gambia, Western Africa, Kenya, as the paper did point out. The Congo with the M200 mutation, the paper pointed that out as well. And some more in Kenya with the E2 haplogroup. This is clearly sub-Saharan. I got a feeling I got to show a map so I can show where all these places is. So let me get Africa, because again, we try, bro. You'll be surprised.
We're looking at Morris clade, right? E-M75, E1A.
No, he's E1. This is E2.
Wait, you're looking at E2. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, he's EM44. Don't quote me on that. I think that's.
I don't think we have any YAP members with E2. That one's kind of that one's a bit obscure.
I've seen it in papers. I've seen it in the paper dealing with Central America, the population that is supposed to be a relic of a freed slave population. I've seen it with that one with the E2.
Yeah, there are Americans with it. I see right there it says USA. There's an American with it. Yeah. On Y4 right here.
All right, so
you should have pulled up the globe tracker and put in E2 to show like its distribution.
Oh yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm that's part of it. But for you guys to understand, here's Sudan. Now it's being called Sudan and South Sudan. Chad, we mentioned Chad here. That's Chad. Ethiopia, Eritrea. People are like, we don't need to see that, man. You'll be surprised, man. The basic geography. People don't understand basic geography. Guinea-Bissau was mentioned. Senegal was mentioned. Burkina Faso was mentioned. So yeah, I mean, it's all over from east to west. You see E2, and of course, we did see that ancient sample would have been in Egypt, most likely northern Egypt, where that corn mummy was found. So yeah, sub-Saharan Africans in ancient Egypt. And today we see them in Sudan, we see them in Chad, we see them in Burkina Faso and Senegal and Gambia. It's another thing when people hear sub-Saharan Africa, they always think about over here. They always think, like Sierra Leone, and they don't even think about these countries. I'll take that back. They think about Nigeria. That's pretty much it, though. It kind of stopped right there in Nigeria.
Nigeria and Ghana, I would say.
Yeah, those two places. When they hear the word sub-Saharan, no, sub-Saharan Africa means below the Sahara, and that encompasses all of these areas here. That encompasses Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, which we brought up a couple times, with the E2 samples being found there.
Yeah, by technicality, Horn Africans are sub-Saharan Africans.
Yeah, that's why
Somalis, Ethiopians. Yeah, go ahead.
That's why their autosomes are considered. They're considered sub-Saharan. So if you see,
technically, half of their autosomes is sub-Saharan. They like most of those Horn Africans, half of their DNA is Nilotic, like East African Nilotic, which is sub-Saharan.
Exactly. Yeah. So it'll say sub-Saharan, which reminds me of the twins when they will bring up, sub-Saharan African is the, you know what they believe, and they will bring it up. I'm like, well, you have Somalians and Eritreans, and for some reason my password is not working now. Hold on. That have sub-Saharan African DNA, but it's not the same. It's specific to the Horn. Okay, there we go. So E-M75. Share this tab.
Oh, you're pulling up on Globe Tracker. Okay. Yeah, it's seen in the United States, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, and other countries. Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, there actually are a decent number of Americans that carry it.
Right.
The rest is Middle Eastern and East African. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the E2 branch that male that potentially created that corn mummy or had played a role in it would have came from this branch, which came from EM96 and ultimately DE. So we go to Globe Trekker, and this is pretty much the
Oh,
extent
interesting.
of the E2 family. You can see it goes into West Africa,
Hmm.
goes into East Africa, goes into Northeast Africa,
Hmm.
makes its way
Egypt.
into the Levant. Yeah, it's in Egypt. So I mean, none of this stuff should be shocking. You know what I'm saying? None of this
Some
stuff.
people try to say E2 is just a sub-Saharan African lineage, like it's only found in sub-Saharan Africans, but clearly that's not the case.
Obviously not.
Oh, haplogroup E1A, that's nothing but sub-Saharan Africans. Haplogroup E2, that's nothing but sub-Saharan Africans. It's like is the only non-sub-Saharan African haplogroup that's E1B1B, is that the only one?
Yeah, yeah. If you let them tell it, it is.
Basically.
Um, display options. I want to change. No, I want to change the speed of this.
So E2 formed, it looks like, in Sudan.
Yeah.
So I guess you can consider it a Saharan haplogroup, considering that Sudan is in the Sahara. So Saharan origin in its lineage.
So it's going into Sudan. E2 is formed. And the colors for everybody watching are the descendants of E2 and where they go. 18,000 years ago, chilling in the Horn, the top part of the Horn, the Red Sea. We're going towards Central Sahara in this region here. This is Green Sahara time right here, 12,000 BC.
Yeah, that's green. That's why it's really on the move.
It's going up to Levant, northern Egypt.
E1B1B was the only haplogroup to go to the Levant.
Another branch. Look, check this out. Let me go back. Let's go back.
Yeah,
500 BCE. It's still hovering in this area. The green color is hovering in this area.
No wonder E2 was found in Egypt. If it was in Egypt in 900, excuse me, not 900, 9,000 BCE.
Right. Look, and even the green branch is in Egypt right there.
Yeah, second migration.
Yeah.
And we see it also going into Nigeria. Got to shout out the West African E2s as well.
In the Levant around 3000 BCE.
Yeah. In Levant, yeah. Also going into West Africa as well.
Yep.
And
made its way to Nigeria and Mali.
Yeah. And Kenya as well down there.
Yeah.
East Africa. Kenya and Congo is getting closer to the Congo. Let's see if it's going to cross the border.
Making its way to Senegambia up top right here.
Yeah.
You can see the countries.
Yep. It's going closer to Benin. Maybe it's going to stay in Nigeria. We'll see. There it is. It crossed into the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So some Congolese people with E2. Yep. Obviously, it's in Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea. That makes sense. Djibouti.
Right. And then green is the EM98 descendants. Purple is the EM41 descendants.
So can you zoom out really quick? So again, just to recap, this E2 was found in an ancient Egyptian mummy, correct?
Yeah, the DNA was found on the corn mummy. Yep.
Okay. And we see that E2 with, its distribution is all throughout Africa, the Middle East, as far as West Africa and Senegambia and Nigeria, as far as East Africa and, Kenya and Ethiopia, Somalia, as well as in Central Africa and the Congo. And The reason why I'm pointing this out is because you often hear that ancient Egyptians have no connection to sub Saharan Africans. Ancient Egyptians are not related to sub Saharan Africans in any form or fashion. Um, so it's kind of interesting when you see that an Egyptian carries E2, and this Egyptian with E2 will be related to all of its E2, brethren, all the way in Nigeria, all the way into the Gambia, all the way in the Congo, all the way in Kenya, and so on and so forth. So ancient Egyptians are related to sub-Saharan Africans, just like they're related to Eurasians and peoples in the Middle East and peoples in Europe and things of that nature. Um, we really got to stop this notion of saying that this ethnic group isn't related to any other ethnic group. It's a really silly way of looking at the world because technically speaking, we're all closely related. But even if you want to break things down more specifically, like into haplogroups, Egyptians would still be related to sub-Saharan Africans via things like mitochondrial L3 or via Y-DNA haplogroup E2, and things of that nature. So I just want to point that out. This notion that Egyptians are like this pure isolated race or whatever. It's not true.
No, not at all, not at all. And here's a paper right here. I want to get the supplemental. I don't think I have it on this computer here. That came out a couple years, and remember you showed me a TikTok of some woman or some girl basically saying that, oh, this is proof that there were no sub-Saharan Africans in ancient Egypt.
Yeah, you can pull her up on YouTube Shorts, where she says, if you want, it's up to you.
And the damn paper doesn't say that. A lot of people try to use this paper. Again, it's just basic reading understanding. Like right here, it says here, just real quick, our analysis revealed that ancient Egyptians share more ancestry with Near Easterners than present day Egyptians who received additional. What does the word additional mean? Sub-Saharan admixture in more recent times. Does not say they just received. It says additional. In order to add something had to already been there. So I mean, this is just a complete neglect or a collapse.
Well, people have an issue with words. Parsimonious.
Yeah, yeah, we remember that, right? Oh my God.
Parsimonious means. Anyways, go ahead.
Be stingy. It means stingy. No, not in the scientific sense. It does not mean that. But anyway, let me get the supplementary. I'm going off memory here. I believe it's this one here. So let me download that again and open it in the browser. Where it talks about the sub-Saharan African DNA in the comments. And everybody was going crazy trying to use this paper to try to say that this is, bona fide proof that there were no sub-Saharan Africans in ancient Egypt.
Doesn't this same paper talk about mtDNA L3 in an Egyptian mummy? I can't remember.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yep. Because it takes 90 of those mummies, and a few of those mummies had L markers. So it's like, y'all did not read this at all.
Yeah, they just read the headlines and stuff and the abstract and the title. That's about it. They didn't dig into it. It's a good paper. I don't know, like Afrocentrists don't like the paper, but I'm like, no, it's actually a pretty good paper. It's telling the truth about ancient Egyptian society for one. So I don't see why there's an issue with it on the Afrocentric side.
Well, Afrocentrics have an issue with it, simply because they were always taught by these, what's a nice word to say on the internet? What's these Afrocentric, master teachers? Let's put it like that. Let me put it like that. Yeah, they've been taught that Eurasian or whiter or lighter skinned people that are in North Africa today are invaders. So when you tell them, no, there were always Eurasians in North Africa for a very, very long time, that does not compute with them because they've been watching YouTube video after YouTube video of someone saying the opposite. No, those are Arabs, and these are Persian and Roman and Greek invaders, and like they were there before any of those polities were formed. That's the issue they had, and it's all based off race. It's all based off the concept of race.
Yep.
So anyway, here's the supplemental information here dealing with this. Chun Chao Wang. It says here the African admixture proportions in present day and ancient Egyptians are estimated in a model-based clustering by admixture and successful models with increasing number of ancestral populations. In this section, we confirm these estimates using simpler F4 ratio approach applied to the proposed graph below. We use different West Eurasian populations to act as proxies for non-African sources. We observe an increase of Yoruba-related African ancestry in present-day Egyptians compared with our ancient samples. The present-day Egyptians are suggested to have about 14% to 21% African ancestry, while the proportions in ancient Egyptians are only 6% to 15%, as also depicted in supplementary table 6. So no, this paper did not say ancient Egyptians had no sub-Saharan African ancestry. It never said that. This is what the paper said from the get-go, and these people ran with it, talking about, no, it says they had none. No, it does not. It says additional. What does the word additional mean? To add.
Boy, they butchered the paper. I get it, trying to correct Afrocentrism and things of that nature dealing with Egypt, but you can't just lie on papers to go at the Afrocentrists. You still got to tell the truth. And the thing is, both sides, whether it's the supremacist Mena side or the supremacist Afrocentric side, both sides honestly don't want to tell the truth about Egypt, and that it was a multi-ethnic population, a multi-ethnic empire. It had Eurasians and it had Africans. Egypt was not all Black African, and Egypt was not all, I guess, white. I don't know. It had a mixture of different people.
Right. Bro, the paper goes on and says, and we brought this out before, the average admixture time for present-day Egyptians is 24 generations ago, about 700 years ago, assuming 29 years per generation. As further illustrated in supplementary table 8, we estimated mixture fractions of at least 6.8% Yoruba-related ancestry for those present-day Egyptians. Changing the starting point of the LD fit does not qualitatively affect the results. We caution that the dates estimates might not reflect the initial African admixture in present-day Egyptians. Instead, it is an average date of population mixture. If the admixture did not happen immediately when two populations met or occurred many times over an extended period, the true start of mixture would be more ancient. This is what the paper says. And we always have to do this. We always have to actually show y'all what the papers say versus what people say that the papers say. We find ourselves doing this a lot.
A lot. Like, people butcher these papers, especially one particular person loves butchering papers. Like, geez.
Jay Guider, he makes a great point. He says, during much of Egyptian history, people were dark to intermediate as detailed as Southern archetype. Yes, I mean, not just in Egypt. I mean, that's like
brown is like the dominant skin tone on the planet. The dark brown for a long time.
Right. And then intermediate became, good look, and you really didn't see too many lighter skinned folks. That does not mean they don't exist. Let me just go ahead and nip that in the bud. Oh, they just popped up. Like one brother said, oh, no, where white people come from. They descend from these darker skinned people too. They just develop different skin adaptations and alleles that change the color of their skin. That's not be silly. You guys go straight to, science fiction, they come from aliens. They come from out of, no, they come from another. No. They're Homo sapiens, just like you and I. Let's stop this nonsense. They're hybrids or something. No, they're not. But with that being stated, man, like I brought this paper up for two reasons, just to show people have a hard time reading and comprehending. And the reason why is because they have these preconceived notions in their mind already. They already made their mind up before even looking into the information, instead of looking into the information, analyzing, and then coming to a conclusion. Great point again. Jay Geider says, looking at the Hausa, they are dark as tar with R1 haplogroup. And that's the biggest, everybody bring up Nigeria. That is the biggest ethnic group in Nigeria. And they are primarily R1B, V88 for the most part. So it's like, you guys try to typecast people who don't even understand that sub-Saharan Africans themselves are diverse, and their ancestors have moved all over. Again, R1BV88, we brought this up to ad nauseum on the channel, has been all over. Man, they came from the Balkans and made their way all the way to the Chad Basin and made their way to places like Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, Burkina Faso. Like they made the ancient Egypt. They made their way all over. So trying to typecast and put sub-Saharans in a box just never made sense. Knowing the genetic diversity, the amount of genetic diversity that's in not ancient, but just Africa as a whole, like it just does not work, does not compute. So yeah, man, sub-Saharan Africans in ancient Egypt, can you dig it? Ezra says, RV88 has an Ashkenazi line too. Yeah, I can see that, man. I can see that. I can see that, bro. Like, that's how humans work, man. There's no invisible force fields keeping humans from interacting with each other. There's no invisible force fields keeping humans from traveling to other localities. None of that stuff exists. The only place those things exist is in your imagination. Y'all remember SpongeBob when he said imagination? That's what we're dealing with here. We're using real world findings and fighting against people's imagination. Sub-Saharans were definitely in Egypt. But let's not get carried away. This is not what those people are trying to say. And by those people, I'm talking about your Jabaris of the world. They're trying to paint your Hoteps, trying to paint ancient Egypt as to be some kind of blacktopia. All homogenous, all black, all this. No. And you brought
society with no murder or the R word and other
the utopic, everything was peaceful until the Tamahu came, which makes no sense because isn't it the Tamahu that you're referring to, the Libyans, the ancient Libyans? It's like, come on now. No, Tamahu means the European. No, it does not. That has nothing to do with that. But again, they got that from their teachers, their master teachers in the past, and they just, kept the tradition alive to today.
Luckily, I would say it seems like Hotepism is dying out. Hopefully, I feel like it is.
Is it dying out, or are you just not paying attention to it?
I ain't gonna lie, I don't watch their content, so maybe it ain't. I don't know.
Man, I know, man. Like,
I'm assuming it is. I'm assuming.
Yeah, but you made some excellent points about people's perspective of ancient Egypt and how they try to put their modern notions of race on ancient Egypt. And it just does not work like that. One's fictive, one's real. Usually when the fictive meets the real, there's going to be conflict there because the way you think things work is, 9 times out of 10 in contrast with how things actually work. But I'm about to pull this reference from Ancient Near Eastern History and Culture. I think a brother cussed me out on Facebook when I posted this source. You a sellout. I think he called me a sellout coon. You guys love to use that word coon. That is a racial slur spearheaded by KKK and racist rednecks of the past. So when I call you guys black rednecks and black Nazis, you literally embody Nazis and literally embody KKKs of the past when you use words like coon. You try to call people coons, you know. That's usually what you say when someone provides information that you don't like. Oh, you're a coon. You're a sellout. You hate black. You hate all 50 million black people because you don't agree with my biased ass opinion. You know. Yeah. So this is gonna make people mad, right? And, you know, I brought this up too ad nauseum too. Let's just start here. I'm just gonna read the whole section because I think it's very pertinent to what we're discussing tonight, man. These racial ideas and, you know, racial essentialism taking over, and these people thinking that the world should work the way they think it should work. So this is the ancient Near Eastern history and culture. And we're at page, let me hide this real quick so you can see that. Page 143, and it is titled Debating the Evidence, the People of Ancient Egypt. In the past 3 or 4 decades, there has been much popular interest in the racial identity of ancient Egyptians. At one time, it was European scholars who raised the issue by proposing theories that Egyptian civilization was produced by the immigration or invasion of a dynastic race. The racial identity of these supposed newcomers was not usually stated, but it was assumed that they entered Egypt from Western Asia, not from other parts of Africa. Today, the idea of dynastic race in early Egypt has been completely abandoned. However, in recent years, the issue of the racial identity of the ancient Egyptians have been broached primarily in Afrocentric works. Diop, which some of you guys are watching, y'all love bringing up Auntie Diop, and Von Sertima. Y'all love bringing up Von Sertima, Asante. These are these leaders that you guys keep reverberating their ideas over and over again, but they've been dead wrong. And all they did was Uno reverse older ideas for racist whites. That's all they did. So a lot of these arguments just regurgitated stuff that was put out 100 years ago, man. It says such works attempted to counter Eurocentric racist disparagement of African Americans and other blacks by arguing that almost all civilization originated in Egypt and was created by black Africans. For a response to Afrocentric claims, see Lefkowitz, 1997. Martin Burnell's Black Athena, though not truly an Afrocentric work, brought much scholarly attention to this subject. Bernal did not emphasize race, but he did argue much of Greek civilization derived from ancient Egypt. Even though most of Bernal's thesis has been rejected by almost all specialists in ancient Near Eastern civilizations, as well as those specializing in the culture of early Greece, it has been widely used by Afrocentric scholars. So these are some of the books that you hear in these circles. They try to use these things. They will use Black Athena. They will use Vern Sertima's work. They will use Diop's work. They always go back to these works to try to prove this race thing going on in Egypt. But hold on. Just get murked when the cliff disperse. Don't leave yet. The shit gets worse. It says, why has the racial identity of the ancient Egyptians become important to so many people? The answer to that question varies, but usually who ask whether the Egyptians were white or black accept 2 incorrect premises. First, the question implies the existence of biologically distinct, relatively pure races that develop in isolation from one another over long periods of time. This is something we've been trying to drive into you guys' head. This is what y'all believe in. Population isolation, static populations over long stretches of time, over millennia, and these people never interacted with anybody else, never traveled nowhere. That's what you believe in. You believe that race is biologically distinct, meaning if you're black, then you're from this distinct, unique part of humanity that never crossed over to anybody else. It's pure. If you're white, same thing. These are the issues. Those are incorrect premises. That's not how real life works. And this is why you get people that get upset that there are ancient sub-Saharan Africans that living in ancient Egypt, discovered in ancient Egypt, or vice versa. Oh, no, the Akhenaten can't be R1B. That's associated with Western Europeans. Oh, I was told by Diop that the ancient Egyptians were all black Africans.
You can even find some people in the Mana population who don't like the existence of R1B in Egypt because they feel like it gives, it gives, what's the word I'm looking for?
Credence?
Credence to who they call the Snowteps, which are Europeans who claim ancient Egypt. Got the Hoteps and you got the Snowteps, and the Mana population don't like either one. So
the crazies, man. But this is the incorrect premise, bro. You guys starting off wrong. That's the problem. Second, the questioners generally believe that there's a link between what they regard as race and cultural achievement. And that's the second thing. That's why people were trying to latch on it. Ancient Egypt was a black race. It was ran by black people, for black people. The reason why, because they say, oh, ancient Egypt achieved so much. They built these great monuments, these pyramids. They ruled. They were a dynasty for over, 1,000, 2,000 years. So if I attach this race to it, and I am attached to that race, then I am also attached to the cultural achievement. Same thing with white people. Oh, if I attach myself to this, if I attach the ancient Egyptians to this race, which I belong to, then therefore I am credited for the cultural achievement. So, these are incorrect premises. That's not how you're supposed to study history. Go ahead.
No, it's so dumb when people say the Egyptian race. It's like, what do you even mean by that statement? Like, is there a I don't know, a Natufian race or a Ibero-Mauritian race? Is there a Zulu race? Is there a Moabite race? Is there a Akkadian race? Like, what do you mean by race? When you look at human populations, all human populations are mixed, no matter who you look at. This is why I love when I found out the genomic breakdown of Natufians and of Ibero-Mauritians. These are Neolithic to Mesolithic human populations, and you wouldn't expect them to be quote unquote mixed, but they are. Even the Natufians and Ibero-Mauritians are not a pure race. There's two different genomic breakdowns for Natufians. One genomic breakdown is that Natufians are like 60% Arabian, 21% North African, and then I think like 6% Omotic East African, and the rest is like West Asian. So the Natufians have like 4 or 5 different admixtures within them. And Ibero-Mauritians are also mixed. There's 2 breakdowns for them. Ibero-Mauritians are, there's another breakdown for the Natufian. The other breakdown for the Natufian is that they have like an indigenous West Asian, Georgian admixture. I think it's called Duziana or something like that. And then the rest of their genome is like North African related, like Ibero-Mauritian, ancestral North African related. And dealing with the Ibero-Mauritian admixture, 2 different ideas for them. Ibero-Mauritians are either, one model is that Ibero-Mauritians are like over 30% sub-Saharan African, West East African specific, but more closer to West Africans with Yoruba and Mande. And then the rest is like Levantine, Neolithic Levantine admixture. And then the second model for Ibero-Mauritians is that they're like half ancestral North African and then half of that same Georgian West Asian admixture, like the Duziana. I can't pronounce it because I have to actually look at the words. But what I'm bringing this up just to illustrate that ancient human populations have always been mixed. There's no like pure race, even if you look at Natufians or even if you look at Ibero-Mauritians. So when people say, oh, the Egyptian race, it's like Egyptians really aren't autosomally 100% anything. If you actually break down the Egyptian genome, they have like some Natufian in them. They have some like, sub-Saharan African in them, whether it's like East African or in a little bit of West African, stuff like that. They have some Ibero-Mauritian in them. Like they're a hodgepodge of the people that they're around. So there's the whole concept of this Egyptian race, it makes no sense. Everybody is mixed. Everyone. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. That's why all of our our ancestries converge at some point. No matter who it is, it could be somebody from Ireland, Russia, somebody from Zimbabwe, somebody from China. Like at some point, our ancestries are going to converge. But let me continue reading this. Great points, brother. The racial identity of ancient Egyptians is important to many individuals because they want to claim early Egypt's accomplishments for themselves and other members of their own race. Most archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians usually try to avoid such discussions because they realize that the concept of race is a cultural construct rather than a legitimate biological category. And I don't know how many times I've tried to reiterate that to people, but they want to make something that's completely fictive. That's like trying to make Walt Disney. That's like trying to make One Piece and Luffy and his devil fruit powers seem. It's in the same vein, bro. It's in the same vein. Like y'all trying to make something that's completely made up. Real.
Some people believe One Piece is real, bro. Some people believe it. One Piece and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sidetrack. I'll let you go to it, but I got to show you this clip of Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan podcast, and he had this guy on who basically broke down the plot of One Piece, and he didn't even realize, because I don't think he watches anime, but basically he thinks the world is like secretly run by people who don't want folks to know about the true ancient past of humanity. And like, I was like, bro, that's the One Piece.
That's One Piece, yeah. The Void Century, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have to show you that clip. I was like, bro, he's quoting One Piece. Go ahead, I'll let you.
All right, so
and the world was flooded in the past, and that's why all the knowledge of this ancient civilization is gone. Bro, I gotta show you that clip, bro.
Yeah, that's One Piece. The ancient weapons. Anyway, modern genetic studies have shown that only 16% of the variations between individual humans exist between the major so-called races. On the other hand, 94% of the differences occur within specific population groups. Differences in easily observable physical traits usually provide the basis upon which cultures distinguishes races from one another. However, often use racial characteristics such as skin color, hair texture, the shape of eyelids, noses, lips, or other features often vary independently through space and over time, meaning it could change. Again, the Negritos have many of those features that people associate with people that live in Yoruba land, right? Or Nigeria or in Cameroon or Sub-Saharan Africa in general. But they have nothing to do with each other genetically. They're actually more genetically close to a Southern European than a Negrito or a Pacific Islander. So that's you can't just go off of features. They don't tell you anything. Same thing with the RV-88. The Hausa. These people are genetically close to their ancient relatives that lived in the Balkans. Even though they share features with people that are of other Nitro-Congo stock. This is why using skin color and hair texture. This is why race is just silly and it's a confabulation. This is why. And why it's not a legitimate biological category, as we read earlier. Even though people want to keep Frankenstein the science. Frankenstein, the concept in the race science over and over again. It says, furthermore, there is no demonstrable relationship between such physical characteristics and intelligence or cultural achievement. That's what most people, white means intelligent, or this means cultural, and black means excellence because the ancient, no, that does not, none of that stuff has anything to do with your idea of how someone looks or what racial group they belong to. None of that stuff. And we tell skinheads all the time on the channel, if your idea that, somehow that blacks are inferior, intelligence-wise, then why are some of the most brightest people Nigerian and Caribbean black? That don't make no damn sense. Anyway, after 10,000 BCE, as the weather began to become drier, Egypt became a magnet for immigrants from North Africa. This is what you was talking about, Avery. North Africa, Sinai, Palestine, and the southern regions of the Nile. These groups blended with one another to form populations of ancient Egypt, which physically was much the same in antiquity as it is today. I mean, you would have your darker skinned groups, your intermediate groups, your pale groups in ancient Egypt. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that because you got this idea of racial superiority and all this other bullshit ingrained in your mind and seared in your mind. It says in the Nile Valley, physical types varied so gradually that differences were perceptible only between places widely separated geographically. Skin color, for example, gradually changed from predominantly tan or olive in the delta to an almost blue-black near the Nile's sources. So again, you had the lighter skin tones and the darker skin tones and everything in between in ancient Egypt. Can we stop with this color bullshit race trying to paint modern German racial ideology onto ancient history? Can we stop doing that?
Lord of the Rings again.
Trying to bloom and block all of human history. It says other physical features vary bit by bit along the same continuum. But such physical differences were not as important to the ancient Egyptians as to modern Westerners. The Egyptians did not distinguish themselves as a group from Libyan, Nubians, Asiatics, and others in artistic representations by emphasizing any difference in facial features and skin tone between these groups and the average Egyptian. However, the main criteria Egyptians used to define themselves relative to others were cultural in nature. Anyone who was born in Egypt, let me read this again. Anyone who was born in Egypt, spoke the Egyptian language, and shared the Egyptian culture was an Egyptian, a true person.
You literally even find this concept in the Bible itself. Like Joseph and his 70 members of his family went into Egypt. Actually, I'm just going to deal with Joseph specifically. Joseph went into Egypt, and he literally became like the vizier or vizier of the Egyptian pharaoh. Like, you can have other ethnic groups come into Egypt and basically become Egyptian, culturally speaking. And then, you know, after some generations, you know, they mix with the Egyptians, they become basically like everybody else, like, you know, ethnically Egyptian. So you can even find this concept biblically. It's not that weird.
Yeah. It goes on to say in the ancient Egyptian language, the same word meant Egyptian in person. Outsiders were all thought to be somewhat inferior, but that was because of their cultures, not their skin color. Foreigners spoke differently, dressed differently, often had a variety of strange beards, wore different hairstyles, and had different customs. To the ancient Egyptians, there was a world of difference between an Egyptian who lived in the Delta and his Libyan or Palestinian neighbors, even though they all might resemble one another physically. In the same way, why now? Check this out. This is what's going to all you know, guys are secretly in love and in bed with Blumenbach and his race concept. In the same way, darker skinned Egyptians, residents of Elephantine, were people, while their physically similar Nubian neighbors just to the south were only wretched foreigners.
Wait a minute. So is this source saying that Egyptians in the north can look like Asiatics and Egyptians in the south can look like Nubians? But despite how they looked, oh my goodness, this is
exactly
this is big.
They drew a distinction. You may look like me, but you're not me because I am the Egyptian. Culturally, my language, everything I know is Egyptian. You are a foreigner. It was cultural. It had nothing to do with the modern idea of if you share the same skin, you my kin. No, that's not how they operated.
Yes, this is obviously dealing with like religion. And we see the same thing even, again, using the Bible. With the Israelites, we see the same thing. The Israelites are related to the Edomites, the Moabites, and the Ammonites. They talk about how they all descend from the same ancestor, Abraham. Yet these groups all hated each other and tried to kill each other on multiple occasions throughout the Bible. It's not about race, and it's not even about like family descendancy, because we know that Israelites, Edomites, and Moabites and Ammonites are very closely related, like from a biblical understanding. Doesn't matter. It's all about the culture and the gods or God that you serve. And if you didn't serve said nation or said ethnic group's God or gods, then you was the enemy. And so that seems to be true with the Egyptians. The Egyptians had their pantheon. The Asiatics had their pantheon. The Egyptians viewed their pantheon as superior to the Asiatics, the Canaanites. The Egyptians viewed their pantheon as superior to the Nubians. So it's like, yeah, these groups may be related, but they hated each other. They may look similar to each other, but they hated each other. And we see that even to this day in Africa. Africa is extremely, extremely tribal. Like, if you speak to Horn Africans, a Somali will tell you very quickly that they are not Habesha or Eritrean. And an Eritrean will very quickly tell you that they're not Omotic or Nilotic. And an Habesha will tell you very quickly that they're not Beja or what's another one? Tigrayan. You know, these groups are still tribal to this day, even though Horn Africans, for the most part, they do look similar, although I can kind of tell the difference between them because I looked at them enough. But for most people, they all look similar, but the tribalism is still there to this day in Africa. And it was there in ancient times with the Egyptians, the Nubians, and the Asiatics. And you can use the same logic in West Africa. The Yoruba and Igbo don't have a close relationship. And to us, they all look like, you know, Nigerians, but they can tell each other apart based on cultural practices, based on some of the lingo in their language. Even though they all speak Niger Congo, it's still distinct enough for them to tell each other apart. So anyways, it's not kumbaya, but go ahead.
Those are great examples because, again, they're not looking at skin similarity and skin tone and nothing like that. They're looking at similarity in culture. They're keeping the culture. And y'all trying to make things that are social into biology. And they understand socially we're different, and that's where we draw the lines. It had nothing to do with our biological likeness or just, you know, semblance in the way we look. That's just how things were ran in certain areas. And it had nothing to do with this concept. Again, race is a modern concept, not an ancient one. And people trying to use race to explain what happened thousands of years ago, and it just does not compute, man. It does not compute. But again, that's that source there. That's the book here, Ancient Near Eastern History and Culture. William H. Steinman Jr., Susan N. Helft. Before we leave, Ivry, hey, Ezra, Brother Ezra, put a 1 in the chat if you're still here. If my brother Ezra, you still here, let me know. Put a 1 in the chat. That brother just did his big why, and I would love to just do a whole segment or another show where he can show his Globe Trekker results and all that good stuff, man. But we're about to get out of here. Ezra, hit me on Facebook. We can do that show tonight or whatever is a good time for you if you're still there. But anyway, are you here, Ezra? Ezra, do you want to do that show next? I can start a whole different live stream. We can do that show unveiling your Globe Trekker.
Yeah, let's do it if we can. Yeah, let's dig into it.
He's probably busy, but if you're not busy, he said bet. All right, so I'm about to go back to this paper real quick and just read one more thing. I'm going to end the show, and we're going to present a new show, and we're going to give you the link. I'm going to give you the link on Facebook where you can come on and be the prime guest tonight and show off your family tree DNA results, your Globe Trekker. With that being said, this is the paper that we covered tonight. Metagenomic peek into a corn mummy. This was just came out July 2nd, 2024. And the conclusion of the paper, for those that missed it, It says, even though the samples taken from the corn mummy are likely to contain both modern and ancient genetic material, sequences that are more likely to be from Egypt in the 3rd century BC were identified, and it tells you. So most of the bacterial sequences appear to be of modern origin, while sequences from an ancient wheat cultivar, poplar tree, a silk moth-related insect with its gut bacteria, and a North African / sub-Saharan human male appear to be from when the corn mummy was created. So, booyah. We had sub-Saharan Africans in ancient Egypt.
We have sub-Saharan Africans in ancient Egypt. Say it ain't so, Sway. Say it ain't so.
Nice.
All right, y'all. We out of here, man. Stay tuned. We about to start a whole nother live with my brother Ezra. Let's make it happen, y'all. Peace.
Hey, that shit hit different. On 4L. Hey, on the guys, I know y'all been waiting on this one. It hit different. Hold on. Gang. Hey, try to run and still get shot. That shit hit different. Hey, stuffing hollows in my Glock. That shit hit different. Hey, when you smoke your first op, that shit hit different. Hey, gun size a boss top. That shit hit different. Bitch, that shit hit different. Hey, that shit hit different. Hey, when you really bout that life, that shit hit different. Bitch, when you living what you rock, that shit hit different. Hey, when you know these niggas cop, that shit hit different. Bitch, tax the swifty to the Glock, make it spit different. Hey, bro, just beat a murder case, that shit hit different. Hey, my side bitch another race, that shit hit different. Hey, I got a Glock, bro, got a Glock, but bitch, my shit different. Hey, I got BBs round my neck and them hoes hit different. Hey, I cut my baby mama off cause that bitch be trippin'. Hey, caught him locking at the stody nigga be slippin'. Hey, got 33 in my 23, Scotty Michael Pippen. Y'all ass tweaking bitches merch, you know it hit different. It's 200 on my dash, no more whip different. I put my shooters on your ass, it's gon' hit different. No, my boys ain't come to play, they gon' kill a whip. Try to run and still get shot, that shit hit different. Hey, stuffing hollows in my Glock, that shit hit different. Hey, when you smoke your first op, that shit hit different. Hey, gun size a boss top, that shit hit different. Bitch, that shit hit different. Hey, that shit hit different. Hey, when you really bout that life, that shit hit different. Bitch, when you living what you rock, that shit hit different. Hey, when you know these niggas cop, that shit hit different. Bitch, when she found out that you rap, that shit hit different. Hey, when her sister let you clap, that shit hit different. Hey, think I'm locking, but I'm strapped, that shit hit different. Hey, I put my city on the map, that shit hit different. Hey, I'ma fuck a doggy style, cause it hit different. Hey, screaming free the problem child, bitch, it hit different. Hey, all my shorties going wild, bitch, it hit different. Hey, milk the game like a cow, bitch, it hit different. Hey, when your cousin them the ops, you know it hit different. Hey, when you really on your block, bitch, it hit different. Hey, when you really worth a check, that shit hit different. Hey, I put the block around my neck because it hit different. Hey, bitch, try to run and still get shot, that shit hit different. Hey, stuffing hollows in my Glock, that shit hit different. Hey, when you smoke your first op, that shit hit different. Hey, gun size a boss top, that shit hit different. Bitch, that shit hit different. Hey, that shit hit different. Hey, when you really bout that life, that shit hit different. Bitch, when you living what you rock, that shit hit different. Hey, when you know these niggas cop, that shit hit different. Bitch.